It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Gastonia head women's basketball coach, Coach Laurie Kelly. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks.
Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college women's basketball?
Well, I didn't really think I was ever going to do that. I went into corporate America when I graduated from college. I was a communications major with a minor in business and sociology. So I kind of went into corporate America for a few years before I made the decision that I just didn't feel like it met my needs of fulfilling kind of what I wanted to do for my career. So became a graduate assistant at Mankato State University, which was my first coaching opportunity, working at a Division II program, national champions last year, actually, at Minnesota State Mankato now. But yeah, that was my first taste of being a coach, and kind of been doing that ever since.
What was that experience like for you as a player going to St. Thomas and playing?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to be a college basketball player. I played high school basketball at Rochester John Marshall, so we had a very good basketball program. I loved different sports. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, but just basketball was kind of the one that called me. I looked at a number of Division I and II programs as well, but I just felt St. Thomas was an amazing Division III program. We could be really successful there. It was in the Minneapolis metropolitan area, and it was a really strong academic program. So it just kind of checked a lot of the boxes. And yeah, it was 4 of my favorite years of my life.
How was that experience like getting to put on that jersey and representing?
Yeah, I think I say I'm Italian. I'm a Gusty, at Gustavus. We are in this, up until they left to go to Division I, St. Thomas and Gustavus were in the same league. So when I came back to Gustavus, it was hard for me to cheer for St. Thomas because I was playing against them. So now that they're Division I can be a Tommy fan again. So I take a lot of pride in my experience at St. Thomas. My best friends are my teammates from, our 91 national championship team, which ironically is getting inducted into the Hall of Fame this coming November into St. Thomas's Hall of Fame. So those lifetime friendships and experiences were some of the greatest of my life. So, I'm really proud to say I'm a Tommy alum.
What was that experience like getting in coaching and becoming a grad assistant at Mankato?
Yeah, it was my first taste of what it's like to be a coach. So, I give Joan Campbell Anderson was a veteran coach. She gave me this opportunity, and I thank her to this day to giving me the chance to just learn and grow under her, but yet to kind of understand that what goes on behind the scenes as a player, you're not quite really aware of what coaches really do. So, that opportunity was what really opened the door. Her taking a chance on me gave me the opportunity then to be able to pursue my dream of becoming a head coach.
What were some of the things that you learned as a grad assistant to then help you to make that transition to being a head coach?
Like I said before, I think just some of the things that you don't know as a player that goes into coaching, the recruiting aspect of it, the film breakdown. I remember doing scouting reports, and I would have to fast forward and rewind the VHS machine to like keep trying to draw the play up that I was scouting, where that's how you learn. And then, obviously these many years later, I'm a lot better at that, and I don't have to use VHSs anymore. So it's gotten a lot easier.
How was that feeling like going to Binghamton and being the head coach there?
Being the head coach where?
Bingham.
At Binghamton?
Mhm.
Yeah, I was really fortunate at Binghamton. I went in there, I was hired as an assistant and promoted to head coach pretty quickly after I got there, pretty unexpectedly. So I was a very young head coach of a Division II program, and, was able to stay with them the whole time we transitioned into Division I. It was an unbelievable experience. I loved having a chance to live on the East Coast, and, to have that opportunity to be at a scholarship level as a head coach at a young age. There was a lot of growing pains and learning, but I was fortunate. I had a very good basketball team. We were very successful. It was a program that had done really well in Division III before it transitioned to Division II. So the opportunity to become a head coach and learn how to do that a little bit year after year was an unbelievable experience. And again, Joel Thier, the guy that was the athletic director, gave me an opportunity that he didn't have to. And, I'm grateful for that because it kind of set my path on a journey of becoming a head coach at a young age. And I've been able to do that now for many years.
As a head coach, what was that transition like for you while there, going from Division 2 to Division 1?
Yeah, so it was unusual because, Division 2 and Division 1 they had different rules. And especially as we were transitioning, you had to follow Division 1 rules, but you didn't count as a Division 1 school. And you had to figure out your schedule before you could get a conference schedule. So there was a lot of growing pains. St. Thomas, my alma mater, has done that recently as well. So they didn't have to go to Division 2. They were able to skip right away. But for me, it was just a learning curve. And, I think even in recruiting today, I always say, it's unique. I've been a head Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3 coach. And then I was a head coach on the East Coast and on the West Coast, but I'm from the Midwest where I played. So I think I bring a pretty unique perspective. And ultimately, I just want everybody to find a school that and a program that's right for them. And it might not be mine. So it just kind of finding the right fit. I had a really positive college experience. And my goal is to help every student athlete can have that same kind of experience.
Going to Northern Arizona, what was that experience like for you as a head coach there?
Yeah, it was wonderful. I loved Flagstaff. If people haven't been there, it's a place to go see. It was an unbelievable experience. And, I wonder sometimes why I left, but I'm from the Midwest and my family was all here. My parents were here. So, I made that decision to leave Division 1 and come to Gustavus when my children were pretty young. The travels and the demands of a Division 1 coach, that's a lot on a family. And so that experience, though, living in Flagstaff, traveling the West Coast, meeting those student athletes and having that experience in the Big Sky are some of my greatest coaching memories. I mean, we went to the NCAA tournament for the first time in our program's history. It's an amazing place, amazing school. And, I'm a big Lumberjack fan to this day still.
Through your last two head coaching experience, what have you took over from those times over to coming to Gustavus?
The one thing that's unique about Division 3 is athletes play because they want to play, not because they're being paid to play. And so you come to practice because you want to, not because you have to. And I found with my children asking them to clean their rooms, they don't clean it when I want them to do it, but they'll clean it when I'm not even paying attention. So I think sometimes that feeling of the power that student athletes have in Division 3 to choose to participate is kind of a freeing thing, I think. I learned that I don't coach any differently in Division 3 than I did in Division 1 or 2. My expectations are the same. My preparations are the same. I think the unique part about Division 3 athletics is that you play because you want to play. And, it never feels like a job. And, I think that one of the reasons I left Division 1 is because it became a 24/7, 12-month-a-year job. And I never felt like we were ever out of the gym. So it's, as an athlete, I think sometimes it's hard to miss it if you don't have kind of a break from it. So I learned a lot about Division 1 and Division 2, and now being a Division 3 head coach, there's pieces of all the levels and different places that I keep piecing together to kind of continue to grow my philosophy as a coach and hopefully grow to become a better coach each year.
What was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto that court for Gustavus as a head coach?
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I play in a league that over the years I've been here, I've coached against my alma mater. I coached against my college coach, who just retired from Augsburg University, Ted Reverso, a longtime Division 3 coach, Big Ten assistant coach for years. And he finished his career at Augsburg, so for me, I coach against my coach that I co-played for. I've coached against one of my very best friends that I won a national championship for at another school in our league. So I think stepping on the floor, it's no different. You still have to prepare and be ready for a game, but I think Gustavus is a really special place, and I've had a lot of great memories here. So the first time is always special, but I'd say each year I step on the floor for the first year with a new team, a new group is always special.
As a head coach, what was that first time getting to coach against your alma mater and former head coach?
Emotional. I say emotional, and I would say they would say the same thing. I mean, I remember Ted saying to me, it's kind of a no-win situation because he's always been one of my biggest fans. He's always supported me and pushed me to be the best coach I could be. So in the end, when I win, he's happy that I won, but at the same time, he's sad because that means that they lost and vice versa. So I think the harder part was St. Thomas probably just because it was your alma mater and they were a dominant Division III program. So it took us a long time. And I can finally say before they left, we finally were able to get a win up at St. Thomas. So it was kind of that Achilles heel. That was a school we really just didn't get by those first years. So one of my last experience was being able to beat St. Thomas at St. Thomas. So emotional for sure.
How was that feeling like getting your first career win as a head coach?
Oh, I'm so old now. I don't know if I can remember, Brandon. It was good. No, it really was. I think about what I knew at 27 and what I know at now in my early 50s. Um, it's I think I've become a better coach in a lot of ways, but sometimes being naive and just loving it. I think that's the one thing about being a coach, no matter how old I get, I just still love doing it. So I think the feeling is the same for me. I try to, and I feel like when that feeling goes away, that's maybe the time I need to maybe step aside. But right now, I still love it.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a head coach versus for your athletes at Gustavus?
Yeah, obviously a game day for me at that point. I mean, I hope we're ready to go. We've done all the work we've not needed to do up until that point. And so now it's more about just making sure our team's ready to go, get a good night's sleep, make sure you've had a good pregame meal, make sure we feel as prepared as we can as coaches of kind of what our game plan is, and step on the floor and really try to enjoy those 40 minutes.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've started to build for the women's basketball program at Gustavus?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Can you talk about the culture that you've started to build for the women's basketball program?
Yeah, I think our culture is obviously a really good place right now. We're a top 25 program. We've had a lot of success over the last few years. I credit that to some of our former players that now have graduated and left our program. I think that the work outside of the season, the work outside of the daily practices, their commitment to each other about getting in the gym and working on their own personal skills. I think that mentality is passed along to the players that come into the program as freshmen. So, as your older players leave your program and leave their mark, you hope that their culture that you've grown and you've kind of established stays the same. Our culture is about family. We're about community. We're about stepping between the lines, working as hard as we can, but finding joy in that. I want basketball to be the time they come into the gym for those 2 hours. That is time that they don't have to stress about a test or think about things they're worrying about. It's really a time to just enjoy being around, doing something that you love, getting physical activity and competing, because 4 years of college goes really fast and you just really never get to do this again after college. It's just not the same. And so really trying to really value and enjoy that process along the way.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against?
Who we play against? Yeah, so the Minnesota Intercollegiate Athletic Conference is made up of all schools in the state of Minnesota, all private Division III programs. Like I said, St. Thomas has left our program, but in the metropolitan Minneapolis area, there's Hamlin and Bethel. We play St. Ben's. We go down to Winona, Minnesota to play St. Mary's. We go to Northfield where we play St. Olaf and Carleton. We all the way up to Duluth with Scholastica, Concordia, Moorhead. So we kind of go all over the state. I'm sure I missed a couple schools right there. McAllister. Yeah, you put me on the spot here, but yeah, that's a majority of them, I think, off the top of my head quickly. Augsburg, I mentioned already. But we travel. It's kind of nice. That's one of the reasons, again, why Division I, I was on an airplane and gone for days. Here at Gustavus, I have the opportunity to most of our trips are going up the day of the games. We travel an hour to really 4 hours is kind of our max trip. So it makes team travel and work-life balance a little bit easier with our travel being so much more regional.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like St. Mary's comes to home versus going away and playing teams away?
Yeah, we have a really good support here. Our student athletes are really close to each other's programs. So I think there's a great student athlete support for each other. And our community at St. Peter, Minnesota, our program has done well. And so people have really supported that. So it's fun every time you walk out and you see those loyal supporters and all those parents and all their friends cheering each other on. And obviously there's bigger crowds for bigger games, but we really enjoy the community support we have. And we continue to try to put the best product we can on the floor to make that a something you can do with your family and a night out that you really enjoy.
So far as head coach, what have been some of the things that you've been able to accomplish?
As a head coach,
Mhm.
I mean, obviously here at Gustavus, we made the NCAA tournament the last 3 years. We won our conference tournament the last 3 years. We made a run all the way to the Sweet 16 in our 2018 team. You know, our goal is to win a national title and to continue to try to be a dominant program that's talked about in Division III women's basketball. You know, for me, the greatest accomplishments are watching each of them walk across the stage, hopefully with a degree in their hand, and 4 wonderful years of being in athletics that you leave with lifelong friends. And now you go start your career or what your goals are after basketball, and you become successful at that next goal. So, you know, for me, yeah, winning is important. We want to compete. I'm very competitive, but ultimately, I'm most proud of the young women that leave this program and make a difference after they leave here in the world.
What was that experience like for you going to the Sweet 16?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, as a player, I won a national championship. So to know what it's like to be the last team standing and cut a net down, very, very few people can say that. And so it was such a significant moment in my life that as a coach, I worked tirelessly to try to hopefully give that same experience to our student athletes. So, you know, cutting down nets and making a Sweet 16 is, you know, that's a goal of our team this year too. So it takes a lot of luck. I mean, it takes, you know, it's hard to do that. Even the best teams don't always win. So, you know, some of it's just staying healthy and having the ball roll your way that day. You know, I'm a Minnesota Lynx fan, and I'm from Minnesota, and watching the women's game from, you know, game 3 in Minnesota, it was hard. We lost on a bomb from Sabrina, and that's hard. So as great as the moments they are as coaches, there's hard moments. I'm sure Cheryl Reeves didn't sleep a lot last night either. So that's just kind of the luck or the unluckiness of basketball. So, but it was a wonderful experience, and it's something that I'll never forget.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play women's basketball?
I think for everybody, it's differently. For us, I mean, in Division III athletics, it's really about finding a good fit that meets your academic needs. It meets, you know, what you're looking for from a basketball perspective. I always say there's certain things you can't change about the college. I mean, the size of a school, whether the cost of a school, where it's located, those are things that each individual person that's going to select a school. I compare it a lot to dating. There are people out there you would never date, and there's people out there somebody else would love to date. So I think it's finding the right fit for student athletes. I think that the portal would be less full of people. And if you look, Division III has the fewest number of people in the portal because they're picking in the schools not just for sports. But I just think that I always say I don't want to convince someone Gustavus is the right school for them. I just want to tell them about what our program is about, introduce them to our school, and then kind of like a first date. If it's good, you come back. So to me, that's the most important, is just finding good fits. And that really helps build the good culture on your team as well.
How is it like as a head coach getting to see them fall in love with the campus and the basketball facility?
Yeah, it's awesome when you've talked to someone for sometimes 2 or 3 years and watched them grow up and watched them play high school basketball and had a lot of conversations. They visited your school. When you get that phone call or that commitment, it feels good. You know, they picked you, and so if you've done your job right, those people come in here and they become part of your program, and they leave their mark just like the people before them. And you talked about culture earlier. That's how you keep your culture and your winning tradition, by having those type of high quality people. The very first coach I ever played for said, the number one thing you need to do is you need to make sure you recruit good people. And then if they're good students and then they're good athletes, you'll have a good experience. And I've really kind of, especially at Gustavus, the quality of the individual, the students are just such incredible young women that feel very fortunate to be a small part of their growth and their lives between 18 and 22 years old.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that Gustavus jersey for the first time?
Yeah, I think it's really special for them. I think it's special for their mom and dad. My daughter actually plays on my team, so she is a senior on my team. So I've gotten to see the perspective not only from a coach, but as I'm a parent of a Augusta women's basketball player as well. So yeah, it's special when you see. I think it's more special for those people, like as a parent, to see your kid run out there and they have that uniform on. Yeah, it's special. It's not everybody gets to be a college athlete. And so whether they play or they don't play in the game, they're part of a team. They're part of something that is working together towards a common goal. And I believe a lot of life lessons are taught being part of a team like that. So, I feel very fortunate when they come out and the pride that they have putting on that jersey.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those seniors putting that jersey on for the last time representing the school?
It's hard to keep the tears from coming down your cheek. This year I have 6 players that I have 3 fifth-year seniors and last year we had our starting 5 were all conference. That's never happened in the history of our program. In the history of our conference, no team has ever had 5 players in the all conference. So we have all 5 of those players back, plus our top 6 person. So that group's been together, through COVID, through 3 championships, through some disappointing losses in the NCAA tournament. And one of them is my own child. So if you ask me that question in March, I try not to think about what that day is going to look like. But if we did our job right, it should be really hard for them to take that jersey off and hard to watch it too.
As a coach, what is it like seeing those players going into playing in the WNBA or even getting into college coaching after their career?
Yeah, obviously Division III, you don't see a lot of WNBA players, but a number of them have played overseas. And in my time in Division I, I've had the opportunity to have a lot of our players have opportunities overseas to play professionally for a number of years. I think that the pride I find more in is watching them do the next things in their lives. We have Gusty doctors and dentists and physical therapists and lawyers and teachers and community people and accountants, and to see them being wives and mothers. And yeah, I think I get more excited about that. One of my assistants is my associate head coach is also a former player of mine. She's had her second baby 3 months ago. So to watch her doing those other things in their lives is actually what I really enjoy now, more than anything.
What are some of your future plans for the program moving forward?
Our plans are to continue to grow our program, to continue to compete, hopefully at an elite level, provide them with an incredible 4-year experience where they grow individually and as athletes, and hopefully they continue to have a lot of pride when they leave about being part of a piece of something greater than them in our program. I know I feel fortunate for the coaches that have come before me, the path that they've led us to, and I feel a lot of responsibility leading a program at Gustavus to make sure that I leave the program in a better place than I got it. And that's hard because it was in a pretty good place when I came. So I feel a lot of responsibility to make sure you're providing that opportunity to your student athletes, and that's hopefully life-changing for them.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college women's basketball?
To go through the process. It's hard. You're away from home. School's harder. Everybody on the team was one of the smartest on their team, in their school. Everybody was one of the very best, if not the best player on their team. It's really different to go back and have a different role. You almost forget what it was like when you were a freshman in high school and you played with upperclassmen, and it took you those years to kind of build your role into being like that star player you became. And you kind of have to start all over when you come to college. So I think the most anything is just listen, learn, grow, but patience is really hard. So teaching them to be patient and kind of trust the process and, just become the best that you can be. That's all you can do. Show up every day, put a smile on your face, be the best teammate you can be, have a good attitude, work as hard as you can. And as a coach, that's kind of all you can ask for.
What advice would you give those college juniors transitioning into being seniors and leading the program?
Those becoming seniors and leaving the program?
Leading the program.
Oh, leading the program. Yeah, that's important. I think that, when you have good leadership, that's passed along. So I think that some of the teams that have had the most troubles over my, 25 plus year coaching career lacked good leaders. Leadership's hard because sometimes leadership means not being a good friend, to be direct, to say, hey, that's not how we do it. It's hard to do that peer to peer. And like I said earlier, a lot of life lessons are taught and learned being part of a team. So I think that if you see I think sometimes being a good leader means not being a good friend in the eyes of a 20 or 21, 22-year-old student athlete. So teaching them and empowering them to understand that doing what's right for the program is okay, and trying to learn. Obviously, you're not going to yell at your friends, but you're trying to help them say, like, hey, this is how our culture is, this is how we do things. And good leaders, I think, lead by example first. There are some that are real vocal leaders. They bring energy, they bring the fun, they bring the excitement. There's others that are the organizers that take care of everything. We all lead differently. And if anything, you don't have to be a leader on your team with a title. There are people that will just follow you because they respect you. So I think leadership is something that's taught. And I think that it's the lead by example with people above you is the greatest teaching tool that you can have for your leaders.
What advice would you give those college basketball players that are seniors looking to have aspirations of playing in the WNBA?
Yeah, I just don't really run into that at our level. I just don't. And even when I was in Division 1, I have no former players that have been playing in the WNBA. That's there's very few exceptions to the upper tier of student athletes now going into the WNBA. I mean, when Megan Gustafson, who was a star post player at Iowa, was cut in her first year, you think to yourself, wow. But if anything, it showed me resiliency because she's a player my daughter really idolizes and respects as a post. My daughter's a post, and so I look at her and she got fit. She worked on her skills. She worked to get back on a WNBA team. She is with the Aces. She plays, but not probably the role she hopes to have. But she continues to work. So I think she's a role model for student athletes like my daughter, who just sometimes it just doesn't go your way. And how you handle that challenge is a really great way that I think people learn resiliency. You're in a difficult situation, you work hard and you overcome it, and then you use that life experience the next time you face it in your life.
What advice would you give those players looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
Start with youth basketball. Gino Ariemo was the first person I remember saying, like, all these people they want to be on my staff. They want to be D1 assistants. They want to be D1 head coaches. Sure they do. A lot of people do. But the reality is you learn to coach by just start out. If you really want to grow women's basketball, if you want to make the game the best it can be, we need student athletes that played to start working with youth programs in your community, volunteer, go to your local YMCAs, be role models, and help teach skills and fundamentals and ball handling. That's where you start to learn how to do it. And be willing to work for different people and learn and kind of start to figure out what your philosophy and what your goals are as a coach. And I think over time, it just happens. You just keep moving along until you find what you're meant to do. And for some people, they're meant to work in a different world and have a career doing something else, but staying in athletics by being a volunteer coach, being, like I said, someone that coaches in your community. I think there's so many ways you can give back to a sport that probably has given each of them a lot too. And I think if everyone kind of does a little of that, it just makes the whole, like I said, women's basketball in general grow. And this last year, to see what women's basketball has, to watch the WNBA finals, to see everybody wearing shirts that says everybody watches women's sports. Like, I love that. And it's fun. I've been doing it long enough to be able to see it continue to grow. And I think that there's really big things ahead for women's athletics.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Work at a place that you believe in. I think it's hard to sell a product that you don't believe in. So make sure your philosophy aligns with kind of where you're working and meets your needs. Work for an athletic director that you understand what their goals are for you and what the expectations are. I think that's really important to know when you walk in, especially in Division 3, because it's so different from school to school. And work for different people. Being an assistant coach and learning from other people is a really good chance to continue to help you individually grow until your time comes. And when it's your time to come, hopefully the people before you are there to help you. I think there's a lot of mentors out there that want to help. I've been doing it a long time, and I want my assistant to be a head coach someday. And so you give them tasks and you give them responsibility that helps them prepare to be a head coach. Because ultimately, that's part of your job as a head coach, is to help them learn to become their own head coaches someday. So stay patient. It doesn't always happen overnight, and continue to be the best that you can.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the program app?
All of our Gustavus, Gussie WBB, on Instagram, Facebook, all my social media is right through our college. So
Thank you again, Coach Laurie Kelly, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Gustavus as the head women's basketball coach.
thanks.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Laurie Kelly, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.